We are continuing learning this week's Torah portion, which is Mishpatim. And it talks about practical laws. And this week's Torah reading has 53 of them, 53 practical laws, and they're all over the place. But most of the laws here are talking about monetary cases, but not all of them. So here we go. Okay, and we're going to learn from this book also, the book which is called Mitzvot HaShem, and there he brings what the laws are according to the final decision. So, but there's also a lot of implications that are in these laws which are not There we go. There we go. All right. Elohim lo takalel. Do not curse a judge. Lo ta'or. And a leader, a king, you should never, another word for curse. Okay, the word Elohim means judges, but it also means God. God. And Rashi learns out that this also can be taken in its simple meaning that this is a warning not to say bad things about God. Birchat Hashem means say bad things about Hashem. And it's also a warning not to curse a judge, the Dayan, a judge. And the Sifrono says, this is a warning not to curse a judge. It says, even though you might think, Shehateh Tadim, that he judged you improperly, nevertheless, don't curse him. Why? Because a person can never look unfavorably at himself. So if you think that the judge maybe took a bribe or something like that, could be you're right, but it could be you're not right. And the chances that you're not right are greater because people usually are more bribed by their own selfishness than money can possibly bribe them. Also, it says that a leader of the people, a king, you're not allowed to curse. You're not allowed to curse anyone. You're not supposed to curse, especially and according to the Torah, you're not supposed to curse a Jew. But unless the person is an enemy of the Jewish people, an enemy of the Torah, an enemy of the Quran, then it's okay to say bad things. Idolatry, it says you can say. Okay, Malayatcha, here we go. Here now we're jumping to a totally different topic. The produce that you have to give to the holy temple, to the priest. Okay, there's 4 different types of produce that you're supposed to give to the Kohen or to the Levi. In other words, that aren't yours, that you have to give them to the holy temple. One of them is what's called Truma. Truma is, let's say, 1/100th of all of the produce that you have to give to the Kohen. And Dima'ah, that's what's called Meiser. Ma'aser means 1/10 that you have to give to the Levite. There's also 2 other types. There's what's called Trumat Meiser. Trumat Meiser means that you take 100. The Levi has to take 1/100th of his produce that you give him. And there's also called Meiser Sheni. On the 3rd and on the 6th year, you give to the poor people, Meiser only. In any case, there's a proper order. Lo ta'acher, you have to give it in the proper order. And also, Bachur Banecha Titan Li, and the firstborn of your children, you have to give to me. What does that mean? Let's see. This is an obligation that when you have, when your produce starts to get ripe, and you have to give the first fruits to God. First fruits. This is what Rashi says. Dimacha, this is talking about Truma. And he doesn't know where this word Dima comes from. It's a Dima. There's also what's called Dama. It has Truma in it. You can't, don't switch around the order. It can't give what's first last and what's last first. You can't give first ones. Truma comes after the Bikurim. Bikurim are the first fruits. You have to give first fruits. Then after you give that, you have to give I left that out in the list that I gave. You have to give the first fruits. Then after that, you give the portion of the Kohen. a Kohen, and then after that you have to give Meiser. And also your firstborn children you have to give to me. What does it mean you have to give to me? You have to redeem it with what's called 5 units of silver from the Kohen. We already have another. This command was already given to us in another place, but it's only to tell us that it has to be in a proper order, and also the same thing it's going to say later on to tell you that it has to be done. The firstborn also applies to not just your children, that you have to redeem them, because it was like this. Really, originally, the firstborn of the family, they were supposed to be the priests. But after the sin of the golden calf, so God changed it. And he said, no, it's not going to be the priest anymore. It's going to be the tribe of Levi, because they didn't participate in the sin of the golden calf. So it says, just like a child, the firstborn child, you have to redeem him from the Kohen when he is 30 days old. So it says, Ben Chodesh Tifteh. So the firstborn of an animal, you also have to give him within 30 days. And then after that, you give to the Kohen. That's what it comes to teach us. Here we have the Sifrona, which says, Maleyatcha, this is talking about the Truma, the Kohen's portion from the wheat. And Dimacha, he says that means the Kohen's portion from the wine. A different interpretation. It said, originally it was supposed to be that the firstborn worked in the holy temple, and then afterwards it was given to the Kohen. So now it says another Kohen, you have to give to the Kohen the permission to redeem the firstborn from the Kohen. So now the Kohen, the firstborn is no longer part the working in the holy temple. So he says he has to be redeemed. It's a commandment. This is the same thing you have to do to your ox, to your sheep. It says 7 days it will be with its mother, and on the 8th day you give it to me. What does that mean? It says that after 8 days, a baby that's born from a baby cow, a calf, or a baby sheep. What is it called? A baby sheep is a lamb. After 8 days, you know that they're going to survive, and you give it to, like it says, a baby child. If he lasts for 30 days, then you know that he's going to live. But and that's for a child. And 8 days for an animal, then you know that he's going to continue living. That's called a nefel. It means that he'll die early. Anshe kodesh tiyuni, be holy people to me. Ubasa b'sadat Treif lo tochelu. And the meat of an animal that has not been slaughtered properly, don't eat. Throw it to the dog. It says not only in the field, it's just talking, it says Rashi, it's talking about anything. Why shouldn't the Jewish people eat animals that died on their own? There's very complicated laws of how to slaughter animals. Very complicated laws how it's to be. That the laws regarding the knife, regarding how you use the knife, regarding exactly what you're supposed to cut, the way you're supposed to cut, you're not allowed to press, you're not allowed to stop in the middle. That's a very complicated laws. And although people who know ritual slaughtering, they have to know all these laws. So it says, why do we have to know all these laws? An animal that dies, you kill the animal, you eat it, what's the big problem? Or let's say you killed the animal properly, but one little thing was missing. So it says, no, if you're holy people, you have to do, even eating, you have to do exactly according to what it says in the Torah. Even more, Rashi says, if you eat food that's kosher, then if you holy and you refrain from eating food that is not kosher, then you're mine. But if you don't, right, if you eat lobsters and other things that I tell you that are forbidden, then you're not mine. This is God. That's a good enough reason for me to abandon you. Of course, God won't do it, but that's what it means. Anshe kodesh tiyu li. If you are holy, then you will be mine. That's what it says. Why should he throw it to the dog? It says you should throw it to the dog. according to, he said, by the dogs, it says that when the Jewish people left Egypt, that no dog even sharpened his teeth. He didn't even show his teeth. You know, a dog goes to the Jews. So there, God said, therefore, I'm going to give you your reward. The Sophronos is a little bit different. He says that because the dog risks his life to save the sheep and the flocks, whatever, from wolves and other animals that come to kill it. So therefore, you should give the dog its proper reward. You should give the proper reward. And therefore, if there's an animal that dies improperly, that dies without being ritually slaughtered, you give it to the dog. The fact is, we don't give it to the dog anymore. You can sell it. You can sell. It's permissible to sell. You can sell it for dog food, but also you can sell it to non-Jews. This is very commonly done also outside of Israel. Outside of Israel, like in Argentina, they slaughter tremendous amounts of cattle over there. And one of the reasons they go outside is because if they don't slaughter it properly, so then the non-Jews buy it. How do the non-Jews slaughter their animals? They hit it over the head, they shoot it or something like that. It's not done at all according to Torah rules. They don't care about how they kill it. The main thing is that it's dead. So therefore, it's 100% permissible to sell to them. Next law, lo tisa shema shava. Do not take the name of God in vain. The translation of this in the Aramaic, here it is, lo tekabel shema d'kshaker. It says, Rashi says what it means is not to take the name of God in vain. It's also true. But another meaning is don't accept lies. Don't accept what's called lashon hora, slander about other people. If someone comes and tries to tell you something bad about someone, don't listen to him. Don't listen, unless it's something that's really relevant to you. He's trying to save you from losing money or something like that. Also, this is also a warning to judges that they should not listen to one litigant before the other one arrives, right? Not to hear the testimony from one side alone without the other side being present. All these have different, there's a lot of details involved, but this, I'm just saying what the general law is. Also, it says, Al tashas yadcha imrasha, do not put your hand in with an evil person to be a false witness. What does it mean? You know that somebody is lying and he pays you money to testify along with him. Don't be a witness like that. Don't a lying witness. Here, the Sforno again, Rabbi Vadia from Sforno, he says, don't put your hand in with an evil person. What does it mean? To sign with him on a deed. It says in the Gemara, in Sanhedrin, the people of Jerusalem, they would never sign on a deed until they knew who was the second signature. It could be that the thing was really true, but if the other signature was a liar, a cheater, they wouldn't sign along with him. Labi eid chamas, what does it mean? That if the other person is disqualified, you should not give testimony alone, because you're not allowed to be a single witness. If, for instance, a single witness comes in to the court and says, I saw Shmerel borrow $1 million from Beryl, you can't accept his testimony alone. There has to be two witnesses. Because you can't take money from someone if there's only one witness alone. In other words, Shmerel says, I never loaned him a penny. And Beryl brings him one witness that says that he did. It's not good enough. It has to be, unless there's a deed with his name signed on it or something. Okay, here's an interesting law, a sentence that contradicts itself from the beginning to the end. Do not go after the majority to find someone guilty. And do not answer on an argument to incline it. After majority, you have to go. What's this mean? You shouldn't go after a majority, but you should go after a majority. What does this mean? You shouldn't answer on an argument. Also, the word argument is Reeve. It's spelled wrong. It should be Reish Yud Beit. It should be raised. Why is the Yud missing? Okay, of course, obviously it's not a mistake. So what's it talking about? It says, Rashi says, the rabbis say like this, all sorts of, in any case, what does it mean? I'll just explain it to you outside so that we don't take up a lot of time. If it is a capital punishment case, a murder case, a case where someone, if he's found guilty, will be put to death. So in such a case, you're not allowed to go after a majority of one. There has to be a majority of two. If in the court, 20 people say he's guilty, and 20 people say he's innocent, and 21 say he's guilty, he can't be found guilty. If it's a capital punishment case. That's what it means. Don't go after the majority, l'ra'ot, to find the person guilty. If it's a case which implies the death penalty, then you don't go after a majority of one, but a majority of two. On the other hand, you have to go after the majority. If it's a monetary case, then you go after a majority of one. That's what it means. Don't answer on a riv lintos. Some people say this means lo totane al rav. If there is the greatest rabbi in Israel says something, you're not allowed alone to go against him. You can't go. That's why it says rav. It doesn't say riv, it says rav. But there's other explanations also, and that means that if you go out of the lo tane al riv lintos, what does it mean? If someone is found, let's say there's a court case, and all of the other judges found the person guilty or innocent, and they ask you your opinion, don't say, oh, I agree with everybody else. I'm not going to make any trouble. You have to say your opinion. Whatever your opinion is, you have to say. And let Hashem take care of the rest of it. Right? Even though it's a dissenting opinion, nevertheless, you have to say what you truly believe. That's what it means. Don't go after the majority. Just because the majority says it, don't change your opinion because that's what the majority says. Dal lo tedar baribo. A poor person, don't favor him in judgment. What does that mean? Lo tchlok lo kavor lezchuto bedin lo mordalu as ke v'chabdenu. There's a rich person, and a multimillionaire, and there's a poor person that borrowed $10 from the multimillionaire, and he doesn't want to pay him back. So don't go into the court and say, listen, I'll find this poor person innocent, and I'll pay out from my own money. I'll pay from my pocket. No, can't do that. You can't do that. If a person is guilty, you have to find them guilty. Doesn't make any difference if the guilty party is poor, and you say, I have mercy on him. What am I going to take? What, you're going to give him $10? Take $10 as the last $10 he's got out of his pocket and give to this rich person. He doesn't need the $10. You don't make that kind. You think only one thing. What is the law? What is the law? If afterwards you want to give him charity, wonderful. Give him charity as much as you want. You can go to the poor rich person and say, really, what do you care about the $10? Come on, give him the money back. And if you ask me, give him a donation. What do you care? Help him out, right? Give him 1,000. Be a man. But that's separate. As far as the law goes, you have to say what the law is, clearly what the law is. No, totally different law. If you meet up with the ox of your enemy, and he's wandering around, you have to bring him back. Why does it say the ox of your enemy? The ox of any Jew, a fellow Jew, even a non-Jew, bring it back to him. So you can say, okay, listen, it's a commandment for a Jew, because there's a lot of commandments for a Jew that even though it's a good thing to do, and you should do it for a non-Jew, but for a Jew, you're commanded. It's a commandment for God. You must do. Why your enemy? So it says one of the reasons of your enemy is in order to break your egotism. This is a person you don't like. Really, you're supposed to find something good in everybody. Here's this poor guy, his access. You can just ignore him. Say he deserves to have his ox in trouble, right? He's my enemy. Help him out. You have to break your stubbornness and your certainty in yourself. If you see you meet the enemy, the ox of your enemy or his donkey wandering around, right? You have to return it back to him. You have to return the lost item to his enemy. Also, here it says in the Balaturim, this is also talking about a person. Sometimes a person can go according to his own understanding, and he can make big mistakes. And that's what it says. If you find a cow that's grazing, that's not considered to be a lost thing. If you find a donkey and everything like turned over, then that is lost. That's what it means, chamuroto, to'eh. That is chamur, his hummus, his physicality, caused him to make a mistake and push him off the path, proper path. Okay, that's here we're talking. What are we talking about? Oxes, donkeys for? Here it just talks about an ox, right? I'm sorry, an ox that's lost. What about if you see the donkey of your enemy crouching under his burden? The burden is too heavy for him, and the donkey is now fallen down. It can't stand up. Now, the way of a donkey is that once it stands up, it's okay. Then it can walk. But once it's fallen down on the ground, then it can't get up on its own. It hasn't got muscles for that. It's a beast of burden to carry things, but it can't lift things up. It's not like an elephant that lifts things up. It says, the simple meaning, Rashi says, if you see the donkey of your enemy fallen down under its burden, you think you should refrain from helping him. Azav tazov imo, you must help him. This word azov in this case usually means to leave somebody, but in this case it means to help. Rashi says, if you see the donkey of your enemy, this is key. It says Dilma, when. This is one of the times, right? Okay, so it says, when you see the enemy, it says, and you're not going to help him, you should refrain from helping him, bitmiya, in a way of like a rhetorical question. You're going to not help him. Azav tazovimo, you must help him. This word aziva means to help. What does it mean? It means removing the burden from the donkey so that the donkey can stand up. But he has to help. It says, Azov tazov imo. He has to help you. If he says, okay, lift it up, do the work yourself, you have to say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm willing to help, but I'm not willing to stand up the donkey or to take off the burden on my own. I'm not going to do it. A Kli Yakar, he says a little. Let me say, what is this? Here, the Balaturim, he says a little bit differently. He says, if you see the donkey of your enemy, he says that this is to be read simply. If you see the donkey of your enemy fallen under its burden, then you should leave him. You should refrain from helping him. He's your enemy. But then there's another type of an enemy that you must, yes, help. That's what he says. So he says, if this is an idolater, a Basoni of Israel, if it is an idolatrous Gentile that hates you, then from the 7 nations of Israel that you're supposed to destroy, they don't exist anymore. Says those people, don't help them at all. If it's fallen down, be happy. But on the other hand, if it's a Jew or someone who is friendly with the Jews, then you should help him. That's the way he learns it. don't incline the justice of a poor person in a court case. Okay, we sort of learned this before, didn't we? But here it means, before it meant a dal, means a person that's poor. Here we're talking about a person that's poor in Torah and commandments. We'll see this, you'll see what it says over here. We'll see in the law, in the Mitzvot HaShem. It says over there that if there's a Jew that doesn't keep Torah, doesn't keep the commandments, nevertheless, you have to treat him as an equal litigant and look only at what the law says. It's not a, what do they call it, an ad hominem case. You don't look at the personality of the person. Sometimes you do if the person is a liar, but here you know that the person is not lying, right? You have witnesses and they say that Shmerel owes Beryl $10,000, and Beryl is a person that doesn't do Torah and commandments, and Shmerel is a person that does. Doesn't make any difference. You have to go according to the law. What the law says, the simple law, he borrowed money. He has witnesses that he borrowed money, he has to pay back. Midvar sheker tirchak, keep away from lies. V'naki v'tzadik al tarog, and a person that is clean and righteous, don't kill him. What does it mean? That if a person goes out of court and he's been found innocent in a case which is a capital punishment case, then don't bring him back to kill him. Kilo atzdik rasha, because God said the fact that you found him innocent the first time, it wasn't a mistake. God said, I'm with him. I want, says, Ein alecha lachziru, don't bring him back to court, because I didn't make you, put it in your mind to make him innocent in the first place. If that he came out from the court and he's innocent, so he said, this I caused. What if really the fact is he really is guilty? All of a sudden come new witnesses and say, says, nevertheless, don't take him back. And don't worry about what he's going to get. I've got a lot of messengers, said God. I can kill him in other ways. If the person is really guilty of capital punishment, and you made a mistake and found him innocent, don't bring him back to court, because outside of court, says God, I'll take care of him personally. Here, the Sifrono, he interprets it a little bit differently. Don't ever lie. Don't ever say in any way that a thing that could be interpreted improperly. You have to be very, very careful with your words. Maybe you can teach other people to lie others as well. Shochad lo tikach. Don't take bribes. Ki hashochad yaver pikchim v'yasalev divrei tzadikim. Because bribery, it blinds the clever and it makes crooked the words of the holy, the righteous. Now, there's a person that the Torah testifies on him that he is clever and he knows better and he's not going to lie and he's not going to cheat. You put a couple dollars in his pocket and all of a sudden the whole world looks different to him. And he's willing, he looks at things differently. This is especially for the judges. It says, even don't take a bribe, even to judge truthfully. How much more so to incline it to make a lie? Before the case, right? You know that this judge is under a lot of pressure, so and you want him to judge justly. So you go and you put $10,000 into his bank account so that he won't be needing the money of the evil people so much. You did a big sin. You're not allowed to give presents to a judge. It says even because what if a person takes a bribe, even if he is a genius in Torah, if he takes a bribe, in the end his mind is going to go crazy, and he'll forget everything that he learns. And his eyes, it says, even his eyes won't be able to see. That's what it means. That even his eyesight will go bad. A ger, a convert, don't pressure. We talked this before. Don't pressure him. You should know the souls of the ger, of the converts. of the converts. Convert also, like we said, means a temporary dweller, a foreigner, because you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. In a lot of places, the Torah, says Rashi, warns us about a convert because in the past, he could have had a bad past. He could have done things that were totally against the Torah, whatever. But nevertheless, now he is converted. He's a totally different person. You know, because you yourself were wanderers, temporary. A ger means a convert, but it also implies something is also implied by a convert, that he's like a stranger. He's passing. This is not really his home. Wasn't born in the land where he is now. It says therefore you have to be very careful with him because you know how it feels to be a displaced person. Okay, totally different law. Ready? 6 years you should plant your field and gather up all of your produce. And on the 7th year, you remove your hands and don't work on the land. And the land becomes ownerless. The poor people of your nation, they can eat, and whatever is left over, give to the animals in the field. This is what you have to do also for your vineyard and for your olives. In other words, the Shemitah year is a year where, so to speak, your fields don't belong to you anymore. They belong to everybody. There are many laws regarding this. Happens to be a Shemitah year that we're in now. Laws. I mean, you can't just let anybody come and trample down your grapes and wreck all of your fields and etc. The produces, so you can put guards there. You can also sell to a certain degree that you give all your fruits to what's called the judicial court, to the court, and they can sell it for you so that you don't become impoverished, because that's your only source of income. 6, not another commandment. That was every 7th year you have to rest. Also, every 7th day you have to rest. One of the 10 commandments. 6 days you have to do all of your work. On the 7th day you have to rest, in order that your ox, your donkey, and the maidservant, and the ger, and the convert. Some people say this refers to a ger toshev, even the non-Jew that lives in the land of Israel, but he accepts on himself 7 Noahide commandments. He is forbidden to do work for you. He can do whatever he wants to for himself. He can, light fire and cook anything. But for you, he's not allowed to do work. That's what it means. Everything that I told you, you should keep. But the name of other gods, you should not mention. It should not be even on your mouth, al picha. So therefore, all these gods of the other religions and things like that, you shouldn't say them. There's a question if you can say the names of the planets, because the names of the planets are all like Roman gods, as far as I know. Mars is the god of war, and Jupiter, I think, is the god of love or something, charity. And Mercury is the god of, travel, going fast. Venus, the god of beauty. Anyway, so that's a question if you can really say those words. But in general, they say it's okay because it's these are the names which are given to the planets, even though they also happen to be. Now, in Hebrew, these planets also have names. They also have names. What if Jupiter is called Tzedek, and Mars is called Madim, and Venus is called Noga. Right? They also have their names. Any case, but for sure the names of the church, that guy that they worship, forbidden to say that name. Forbidden to say that name. And the names of what is it, the Viking gods and this Norse gods. Also, he says even more, you shouldn't say to a person, wait for me, I'll meet you next to the church. Or stand on the, meet me on, Easter, something like that. These are holidays of idolatry, and it's forbidden to use them, right, as a reference point or something in your speech. Also, here it says that shouldn't be on your mouth, means that you should not make a partnership with a non-Jew that will cause him to swear by his God. Now, it's a very interesting thing because if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, there is a law, and I forget what chapter it was, but there it says that it's permissible. And it really learns a big merit on the non-Jews, because it says that these people, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know when they say, the name of JC or whatever it is, Yashkala, when they say, they were just told by their priest that this is God. They don't know any alternative. So therefore, if you make him swear by his God, whatever it is, and you say, you keep your promises, yes, I swear by, whatever his name, the Son and the Holy Ghost, something like that, that it is the truth that I will keep my promise. So he's really not intending idolatry. He's intending God, but he just uses the idolatrous terms that the priests or whatever tell him. He doesn't know any better. So there's two different opinions. That's the opinion of the Rashi and the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch, of the Shulchan Aruch. You can say, so what's the big deal? So you don't make the oath. If he's making the oath, you're not allowed to. The non-Jews are our responsibility. We're not allowed to cause them also to do sins. 3 holidays you should serve in the year. I see we're not going to get to this book of the laws. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. And the 3 holidays you should keep: the holiday of Matzot, Passover. 7 days you should eat matzot like I commanded you. In the month of Aviv, that's in the spring. Kibo Yatzatim in Mitzrayim, the month of Nisan, that's when you went out of Egypt, and you should come up to the holy temple and bring a sacrifice. Also, the holiday of Katsir. This is the holiday of Katsir. It says this is the holiday of Shavuot. That's one corresponds also to the time when we got the Torah. And also Chag HaAsif, the time of the gathering of the fruits. This is the holiday of Sukkot, of Bikurim. This is the Chag of Sukkot. When the year goes out, when it's starting the new year, you gather all of your produce together. 3 times in the year, all of the males have to see the face of Adon Hashem, the master God. You have to see the master. In the Zohar, it says, who is the master God? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That's what it says. Because the tzaddikim also have the face of God because they encourage people to do the Torah and the commandments. Stormy day. Don't bring the Pesach offering when you have chametz in your house, when you have unleavened bread in your house. Anyway, I never remember what. In any case, the bread that rises, the chametz, if it's in your house, you cannot sacrifice the paschal lamb. And the meat that's left over from the paschal lamb, lo yalin chelav chagiyat boker, you can't leave it until the morning. You have to eat it at the nighttime. Okay, this is the end of today's. The first fruits of your ground you have to bring to the house of God. Don't boil a kid in its mother's milk. And from here we have the prohibition that you're not allowed to boil milk and meat, any milk from a kosher animal with meat from a kosher animal. You're not allowed to boil it together. You're not allowed to eat it together if it was boiled. And you're not allowed to get any pleasure from it if it was boiled. And that ends today's lesson. This is what I wanted to do, but I mean, we're not there. Let me just get to this 1 second. Let's see how we do this here. Stop share. Go over here. Here's this one. Here, this is what I wanted to be. Mitzvot HaShem. I wanted to learn from this book, right? A negative commandment: don't curse a leader, don't curse a judge. A negative commandment: you have to bring the truma and the meiser in the proper order, etc., etc., etc. That's all the things that we learned today. God willing, we'll try to go over tomorrow, but tomorrow is Thursday. I want to go over also the Haftarah, beautiful Haftorah from this this week's portion. It comes from Jeremiah. As we'll learn, God willing, this tomorrow. Okay, see you all 8:15 tomorrow morning. God bless you, and have a good day with Mashiach now.